Can acid rain hurt some buildings and statues? Before we attempt to answer this question, let's try to understand what acid rain is. Acid rain is rain that contains more acid than normal. How is acid rain formed? Well, certain air pollutants undergo a chemical change with water to produce acids, which then come back down to earth with the rain. Now, these certain air pollutants are produced when certain fossil fuels like coal and petroleum fuels are burned. Scientists believe that two of the acids that make acid rain acid are sulfuric acid and nitric acid. Both of these acids can be harmful. Not only can these two acids be harmful to buildings and statues, but they can also be harmful to plants and animals. Now, we can study how acid rain can hurt buildings and statues with some common materials. Now, we learned in experiment 20 that vinegar is an acid. It turns out that chalk is mostly the chemical substance calcium carbonate. Limestone, which is a building material, is mostly calcium carbonate. Marble, another building material and a material that's used to make statues, is also mostly the chemical substance calcium carbonate. So with a piece of chalk, we can study how acid rain affects say marble statues or buildings made out of limestone. Okay, here's the experiment. Let's take a piece of writing chalk and let's just break it in half. And I'm going to place 1/2 of my chalk in a glass labeled acid, and we're going to add vinegar to this glass, and the vinegar is going to simulate our acid rain. And then I have a glass that's labeled just water, and let me put the second piece of chalk in it, and the water is going to simulate rain that is not acid rain. So let me add the vinegar now to this piece of chalk in the glass labeled acid. And let's observe the changes that are taking place. Immediately we see a change occurring to the piece of chalk in our glass labeled acid. We see bubbling occurring, we see a cloudiness appearing. Now notice in the glass containing the chalk and just water, there's some air bubbles that are coming up from the chalk, but the chalk is not really undergoing a chemical change with the water. Let me take the piece of chalk out of the glass that's labeled acid, and I'll do that by pouring the vinegar in the sink. All right. And here's that piece of chalk. Now let me take and compare this piece of chalk that was in the vinegar with the piece of chalk that was just in the water. Now they were in vinegar and water for the same length of time. And as you can see, the piece of chalk that was in the vinegar is now pitted. It's much smaller. The surface is rough. It has been changed by the vinegar. Notice the chalk that was in the water is still smooth, really has not changed its appearance. So this same sort of process that we see here with this piece of chalk that was in the vinegar, the same chemical change occurs when acid rain comes into contact with materials made out of marble and materials made out of limestone. Now, the vinegar that we used here, like I said, is an acid. And most acid rain is not as acidic as vinegar. However, some acid rain is as acidic as vinegar, but like I say, most is not. Now do you understand how acid rain can hurt some buildings and statues?